Hey YouTube, welcome back to another episode of Friday Free Thinking. In today's episode, I wanted to do something that has been inspiring me to do this since I was kind of go over some of my videos that I made previously. And last year, 2020, I made a video about mistakes that you should be avoiding because I made those mistakes. And over time, I realized there are a lot of stuff going on in this game that could potentially lead to people wanting to walk away. And one of the biggest reasons perhaps people want to walk away from this game is simply put, burning out. So one of the reasons why people want to walk away from a game will be, well, obviously for personal reasons, they're tired of the game, or perhaps they're burned out. And a lot of times you hear this terminology used quite a bit. Perhaps in real life even. You hear people talking about, oh man, I'm just so burned out right now. I really need a break. And of course, perhaps people are burned out from work, school, whatever, hobbies. I personally collect a lot of different things. And sometimes I hear that in the communities that I involve myself in as well. Now in this game, there are several ways that you can burn out. And today, hopefully we can discuss some ways to prevent them. As you can see, as I'm slowly scrolling through my monster box, you will see there's tons and tons of units in this game. And the art and the way these units are designed is very attractive. And many times over, you're like, man, I wish I could have all these units on my team. Any day and every day, I can go and play with all these different units. Much like Pokemon, right? A lot of people, when they play these games, you hear the terminology hero collectors and monster collectors. Well, I'm here to tell you that this game is definitely not one of those. But people still make that mistake, and they assume. And you know what they say about assume, right? Well, first thing beginner players like to make the mistake of, they come into the game and they see all these different units being advertised and they want to summon for them and they want to start building them. But one of the key components of this game is it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication to actually bring up one single unit in this game. And I think a lot of times it leads to failure in this game because people, well, they're burned out of resources. Resources by far, as I emphasized before, the most important aspect of this game. And as a result, they run out of resources quickly and they're kind of like stopped, literally just stopped in their tracks. And that can lead them to just burning out, trying to chase after all these different units. And that's perhaps one of the biggest mistakes you can make in this game. Therefore, it can lead to players walking away. One of the most important anticipated combo, if you will be the Bahamut card plus either Sakura and or Yuna. And there are players I hear constantly in my discords that people are saying they want to save, they want to skip this, they want to skip that. And they're avoiding building units they already have, avoiding building vision cards they already have, and trying to save up for those specific banners. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with planning. I think that's a great way to go about approaching things. There's nothing wrong with actual idea of saving. But as you've seen, I've posted many videos of me summoning for things, and I simply do not get them. Common examples would be the little Leela situation during Halloween. Another one would be, for those of you who've been around my channel long enough to know, I spent way over 40,000 just to try to get Ketone for my fiance at the time. And ironically enough, she still doesn't have the unit build because, well, she just simply hasn't been working on it apparently. Point I'm trying to make here is, if you decide you want to save so much and you not happen to get those things that you want, you're going to be disappointed. And it's going to lead you to being frustrated. It's going to lead to anger. And I commonly see that in comment sections all across the board of content creators that I didn't get this person, I didn't get this unit, I didn't get this card, I'm quitting. Everybody knows that equipment is one part of the trifecta, as I like to call it, and more folks are using the terminology Trinity, which will include equipment, vision cards, and espers. So equipment being one of the ones that you have a lot of control over, more or less. Raids is a very serious thing in this game because it literally asks you to dedicate a lot of your time to try to get these UR equipments. As you can see, I have the Elven Bow, the Wind Spear, the Alexandrite Ring, the Platinum Robe, but if you See, the theme between all of these things that most of them are not, I repeat, not +5. And not because I don't want to, not because I don't have the time to, it's just simply because it's a very overwhelming experience. And when they give us raid roughly every month or so, it gets to the point where you have to start thinking to yourself, is it truly worth it for me to spend this much time to try to get one equipment? Now, obviously, I can dive into even further about whether or not to +5 items or simply leave things at +1, +2, or +0. That's a whole new topic of conversation for a different day. But while we're on the topic of burning out, I feel like this game likes to give you options. As I mentioned before, that is actually a great thing. But to many players, people start losing track, start losing focus on what they should be concentrating on. And a lot of times they get overwhelmed. And everybody knows farming essentially is a major part of RPGs, at least especially on mobile gaming, because ultimately that's the experience they want you to have. They want to have a longevity. It's one of those situations where they need to make money, as in the companies, right? Back in the days when we simply had one title that's released on a console of some sorts, they plan to make multiple sequels to it, so therefore they can keep the longevity of a franchise running. But in the mobile world, they want you to be playing these games for upwards to perhaps 5 or even 6 years. And that's how they plan things out. They want you to drag things out. They want you to spend as much time as possible farming as many things as possible. And ultimately, if you as a player do not approach it right, or do not manage it right, or do not perhaps set goals for yourself, you are ultimately going to be burned out by the countless demanding hours of farming. Another aspect I've been thinking about quite a bit is the aspect of burning out through engaging yourself in the community. One thing I learned is everyone has some opinion of some sort, and that is not necessarily a bad thing. But when you have too many chefs in the kitchen, what you're going to end up with is, well, nothing cooked or nothing made. And at least that's the expression I hear in the cooking world. Now, here's the thing. It's fine to join Reddit. It's perfectly fine to join Discord or engaging yourself in perhaps topics of conversation. But a lot of times what I notice is that people tend to take things overboard. Perhaps they get too emotionally involved in topics of conversation. Perhaps people draw conclusions too early before they're receiving all the information they need to make a sound judgment. One thing I notice about gaming is that it is much an imitation of real life. A lot of times when people react to the way things they do in terms of gaming, perhaps that's how they are in terms of reacting to things in life. Now, the way I look at it is the way you approach situations in video games is usually indicative of how you approach things in real life. Coping skills is a very important thing and very important skill set to develop in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. In this game, it's no different. You know, the community is strong. But as we all know, there are some negative bad apples in communities across the world, across the different mini communities that there are, such as gaming, collecting. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are very toxic in the sewing collecting or the sewing communities, right? They're just people out there who tend to be doing more negative things and tend to draw more negative attention. And a lot of times over, I notice that human beings tend to dwell on more negative things rather than happy things. So that ultimately can lead to people being upset and perhaps even burned out from sticking in a community. So now that we talked about all these different things and different aspects of how complicated gaming actually could be, especially in the world of War of the Visions, let's talk about perhaps how we can avoid those burning out. I wish I can put this fire out and behind Luartha here, and that would be like pretty badass, right? Boom, burn that fire out, take that fire out. All right, so let's talk about the solution perhaps to avoiding the burnout of the chase, as I like to call it. Me collecting masterpiece transformers and all these different things in my life, I learned that there's always this chase. Therefore, it keeps the collecting mentality going. Please don't bring that up into this game, okay? That's my personal solution to you, is that if you start thinking about collecting every unit in War of the Visions, you're gonna eventually drop off and walk away from this game. Concentrate on things that you are blessed with. Make sure you understand where you stand in this game. Do you really need +5 for every single thing? And the answer most likely is no. For example, if you're going after a sword or a spear of some kind, yes, it is actually great to get a +5. But do you really need a +5 UR version? Yes, people use the term best in slot. Yes, people say that's the best weapon you can have. But perhaps you can think about the weapon below that. And if that's much easier to obtain, go for the other option. If you're not engaging yourself in high level arena where you're like top 10, top 20, perhaps even top 100, and you realize you don't need perhaps the best items to compete in match play, well, you got to ask yourself, you don't need to spend that much time to going after those things, and therefore potentially giving you the possibility of burning out. The last thing I want to give suggestion on would be when you do engage yourself in community, just be mindful. There are going to be folks out there that are going to say crazy things. There are going to be folks out there saying random things. There are going to be folks out there trying to drag you down. I've experienced that already many times over while I'm making videos for this game. My suggestion is just take the bits of information and kind of absorb the ones that you want to get involved in. Join communities that are very helpful to you. Join Discord communities that are going to be engaging in your being successful in the game. There are going to be a lot of players out there who actually want to see other players being successful, myself being one of those. The reason being is if everyone's happy in a community, it's going to lead me to having more content for myself, and it's going to lead me to be more of a better player myself in this game. If you want to engage yourself in meaningful and helpful conversations, come join my Discord. They're going to be all linked in the section below, and hopefully you guys can come in and enjoy some engaging conversations with my guildies. I think that's all the time for this video. I know it's been a very long one, but I feel like it's one of those topic conversations that really needed to come to the forefront. And especially going into 2021, we want to make sure we go in there with a fresh, happy, and healthy mentality. Until next time, take care of yourself and all your loved ones. Nashtaters and his family out of here. Peace.